Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the Pogo Gold Mine about 340 miles northeast of Anchorage, Alaska. The gold mine opened in 1989 and sits in steep and brushy country about 40 miles northwest of the town of Delta Junction. This area has been the site of environmental research ever since mining started, and the Goodpaster River drainage is one of the locations scrutinized and monitored. The elevation of the drainage varies around 2,400 feet above sea level, with rolling mountains to the south and larger ones to the north. The dense brush covering the land is comprised mostly of alder, willow, and other brush under 10 feet in height, with occasional stands of spruce and birch trees. The animals common here are moose and caribou primarily, with predators being coyotes, wolves, black bears, and brown bears. At 10:30 a.m. on Monday, June 19, 2017, 27-year-old Erin Johnson and 38-year-old Ellen Trainer were taking soil samples along Goodpaster River. Ellen hailed from Fairbanks and worked as a biologist for Alaska Biological Research Incorporated, which was contracted to do biological impact studies by the mine owners. Erin worked there in the same role and grew up in Chugiak near Anchorage. She spent her youth wandering the nearby forests and playing sports. Erin's interest for sports and the outdoors probably started with her family owning a chain of outfitting stores called Jack's Outdoor Gear in northern Colorado. She was a member of the U.S. Junior Olympic Nordic Ski Team in 2006 and 2007. Erin was trained as a geologist and botanist at the University of Montana and the University of Alaska Anchorage. She had already adventured her way around some of the most secluded corners of the globe by this early age. Erin and her husband Gabe were married just 2 weeks prior to this day. At the role as biologists for ABR, both women had completed numerous classes on bear safety. Their broad and extensive experience outdoors only added to their knowledge base. Erin and Ellen had packed into their site about 5 miles from the mine for soil samples and still had the backpacks on their shoulders. As they pushed their way through the thick brush, they chatted about being bear-aware. Erin was about 5 yards up the trail when Ellen heard a rustling in the bushes just behind her. Ellen turned to find the source of the rustling and watched a 300-pound bear appear only 15 feet from her. The bear looked like it could be a grizzly bear, but before she could really analyze it, it was already rushing toward her. Ellen reached down toward her bear spray in its holster on the waist strap of her backpack. Before she could touch the can of spray, the bear closed the distance and drove Ellen into the dirt face first. The bear started to tear at her backpack with savage and irresistible force, jerking her around with each toss of its head. Erin watched as the bear straddled Ellen during the attack. She began to yell at the bear in an attempt to drive it off, but it didn't relent. After only a few seconds, the bear lifted its head from Ellen and fixed its gaze on Erin. Her screams had finally drawn its full attention, and now it approached her. Now, we've already mentioned how Erin had had training on how to handle a run-in with a bear. Undoubtedly, she'd been taught to do the same thing that Ellen had done. While the bear attacked Ellen, she may have had time to reach for her bear spray and pulled it from her shoulder strap on her backpack, but she did none of these things. And the reason why can only be attributed to overwhelming fear. I've been there myself many times in Idaho and Alaska. When a bear's eyes fix on you, all the plans you have to protect yourself in your rational mind go out the window. The unpredictable nature of a bear becomes a reality, and you realize you have no way of anticipating precisely what it will do next. Ellen's face was buried in her hands as she stared at the ground. She could hear Erin's screams turn into gurgling as the bear mauled her. She reached her hand down to her bear spray and pulled the canister from its holster. Ellen flicked off the safety cap from her bear spray and discharged a cloud of irritant in the bear's direction. The bear immediately charged back toward her and tore at her backpack with continued fury and showed no effects or reactions to the spray. Upon seeing no reaction from Ellen, the bear returned to Erin and began dragging her lifeless body down the hill by her head. Ellen took this opportunity to spray the bear once again, causing it to charge back toward her one more time. She covered up her head and neck with her arms once again and laid still. The bear sniffed around her for a few seconds and then returned again to Erin. Ellen now considered that this bear was intent on killing and eating the women, likely both of them. She reached around to her backpack slowly and searched for her radio. Grasping it, she pulled it toward her head and clicked it on. Urgently, she sent out a mayday cry for help, relaying the fact that they were being attacked by a bear. She stated that the bear spray was not working and a weapon was needed. Stephen Herrero is one of the top researchers on bear attacks and preventative measures on how to stop or avoid them. His research indicates that black bears tend to recover from exposure to bear spray faster than the other bear species. This may explain why this bear was so resistant to the effects of the bear spray. His work has been cited on previous episodes on this channel. Ellen's reaction to the bear attack was the appropriate method when dealing with a surprise grizzly bear confrontation, but it is not advisable for a predatory black bear attack. Still laying face down, she listened as the bear moved through the brush surrounding the women. She had no idea if Erin was still alive or not. At 10:40 a.m., Ellen's radio message was received by the coordinator at the mine. A helicopter arrived only a few minutes after Ellen's message was received. The crew of the helicopter could see the bear dragging something through the brush as they approached. Instead of searching for a landing spot, they decided to buzz the bear with the helicopter. Flying right over the bear, they frightened it away, giving Ellen space to flee from it. Via the radio, they directed her down a trail away from the bear to a clearing. They landed and picked her up to fly her back to the mine. While at the mine, the helicopter crew added an armed guard, packing a .338 high-powered rifle. Upon returning to the location of the attack, they spotted the bear as it dragged Erin's corpse downhill once again. The guard fired the rifle and struck the bear from a hovering helicopter at an undisclosed distance. After being struck by the bullet, the bear released its grip on Erin's head and ran up the hill. 2 more shots rang out from the guard's rifle before the bear collapsed, finally dead. After finding a suitable landing spot nearby, the crew and guard disembarked the helicopter. They approached the location they last saw the bear and found Erin's body. About 50 yards away, they also located the bear's carcass. Erin's corpse and the bear's carcass were taken back for analysis, and examinations of Erin's injuries indicated that she'd fought the bear with everything she had. She had several bite wounds on her left arm and her left side, indicating she may have curled into a ball to protect the more vulnerable parts of her body. The significant and fatal wounds were found to be deep and crushing bites to her head and neck. Her body had scratches and scrape marks on her thighs from being dragged through the brush by her head. Her cell phone was found on her corpse, but her backpack was never located. During a necropsy on the bear's carcass, it was determined that the black bear was a 6 to 8 year old boar. In its stomach were found pieces of fabric, Erin's clothes, or Ellen's backpack. There was also some grass and cartilage from a calf moose. Investigators noted that the bear had very little to no subcutaneous body fat, but did have a healthy amount of visceral fat in its abdominal area, indicating it was not starving, but was likely very hungry. The necropsy revealed that the bear had eaten no meat in several days, so it was not defending a cached animal carcass. Given it was a male, it was not defending any cubs. The bear's approach to Ellen was also telling. It didn't roar or growl, which it would likely do in a surprise defensive attack. Given it had closed on her from a short distance and pounced on her from behind, investigators concluded that the bear had strictly predatory motives in its attack on the women. They also concluded that had the women dispensed their bear spray earlier, it may have prevented the attack, but were skeptical that it would have been enough to prevent such an aggressive bear from continuing its attack. Ellen was treated at the local hospital in Fairbanks after a ride there in an ambulance. Her injuries were not severe, and she was released the same day she was admitted. Warning signs were posted at the trailhead, and all visitors were kept away from the area. Erin's fatal attack happened one day after the fatal black bear attack on 16-year-old Patrick Cooper as he ran in a hill climb race on Bird Ridge near Anchorage. His attack is presented in an episode on this channel and is linked to in the article description below this episode. Over the last 130 years, there have only been 6 fatal black bear attacks in Alaska. Erin's death was the first human fatality to have occurred when bear spray was used as a defense. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think this bear was somehow resistant to the effects of bear spray? Given the number of shots taken from the guard's rifle to bring the bear down, would a firearm have made any difference in Erin's attack? What more could Erin and Ellen have done to prevent or stop this bear attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below and let's talk about it. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to Dunbar Lake, about 43 miles north of Sioux Lookout in Ontario, Canada. This area was covered in vast ice sheets during the last ice age, beginning about 21,000 years ago and ending about 10,000 years ago or so. The glaciers that covered the land then were as thick as 9,800 feet, with weight that crushed rock into soil as they slowly slid their way across the landscape. The ground rock, known as till, is one of the best soils for retaining water and is one of the primary causes of the ponds and lakes that are scattered across this area. In the centuries following the most recent ice age, the glaciers slowly retreated, leaving the till to act as the foundation for one of the world's largest boreal forests. Broad and uninterrupted forests including ash, birch, chestnut, hickory, oak, and walnut trees create a shady canopy that rises over the land. It is part of the Carolina Forest Area, which stretches from the Carolinas in the United States into southern Ontario, Canada. White-tailed deer and moose haunt the shadows while bobcats, coyotes, wolves, and black bears stalk their prey. In the early morning hours of Saturday, May 19, 2012, 65-year-old Gordon Shervill was enjoying his annual fishing trip with his lifelong friend, 63-year-old Danny Alexander. Each year, the men had made the trip to Dunbar Lake to fish and catch up on each other's lives. They'd been friends for the last 55 years and had enjoyed many adventures together over the decades. Gordon and his wife Mary had been married for 46 years. Gordon had grown up in Winnipeg and had recently suffered 2 strokes and suffered from diabetes. He enjoyed hunting and fishing, but knew that his health might cause him to stop participating in the coming years. Each year, the 2 old friends would begin planning the next year's trip as soon as they arrived from the current year's trip. In the early morning hours, Gordon had decided to start the day with a trip to the outhouse. The potty overlooked the lake and had a magnificent view, which was a peaceful sight to start the day. Gordon settled in to take care of his business and left the potty door open so he could enjoy the scenery. As Gordon took care of his business on the potty, he wadded toilet paper in one of his hands and prepared to finish up. As he glanced up, he noticed a bear's head at the door of the potty. At first, Gordon thought that the bear would dash off if he just showed it he was a person. Now, Gordon had had his fair share of run-ins with bears over the years. For the most part, the bears had dashed into the brush upon sight of a human, but occasionally they were more curious and lingered for a few moments. Gordon assumed that this bear was curious more than threatening. As Gordon sat on the potty, the bear repeatedly tried to bite onto his feet, but he continually moved them out of its reach. As the bear continued trying to bite his shoes, Gordon kicked his feet toward the bear's nose, but his movements were limited by the fact that his pants were down around his ankles. The bear wasn't driven off by Gordon's kicks, though, and stretched its neck into the outhouse to bite onto his pants. Gordon tussled with more vigor with the bear, hoping that it was only curious. The bear used its grip on Gordon's pants to pull itself closer to him while he struggled to defend himself. This is when the sinking feeling of just how dire Gordon's situation was hit him. As fear gripped Gordon, the bear climbed into the outhouse with him. He grabbed the bear and pushed against it, but the bear locked its jaws onto Gordon's right shoulder. Feeling the pain of the bear's teeth penetrating deep into his flesh, Gordon screamed out to Danny to get a gun. Then the bear gripped its jaws onto the back of Gordon's neck at the base of his skull. The bear clawed and bit Gordon across his back and ripped the flesh of his shoulder as it pulled him from the outhouse. It tugged and jerked him about 15 yards from the entrance to the outhouse and ripped a gash in his lower left abdomen. As the bear dragged him, Gordon tried grabbing passing trees and bushes, but the bear was too strong and overwhelmed his grip. Now certain that the bear was going to kill him, Gordon laid flat and pushed his face into the muskeg to protect it from being chewed on by the bear. Back at the cabin, Danny heard a scuffling noise outside and Gordon yelling for his help. He quickly hopped down a few of the steps on the front porch before turning back around to grab the rifle inside of it. Now armed, he headed through the brush toward the outhouse and Gordon's screams. Upon locating Gordon, Danny could see the bear standing over his friend, but couldn't get a clear shot at it. The bear was too close to Gordon, and Danny knew he might just shoot his friend if he fired at the wrong angle. Then the bear turned toward Danny and away from Gordon, presenting a clear shot at its head. The bear was on all 4 feet and had its head lowered as it stared in Danny's direction. He took careful aim at the bear's head and squeezed the trigger. The rifle's report echoed along the lake shore as the bear piled up, dead only a few feet from Gordon. Pictures of Gordon's wounds would not pass YouTube guidelines, so I've posted them on my Patreon account linked below. The images are not bad, but do give you a good idea of how painful and incapacitating Gordon's injuries were. As Danny trotted to Gordon's side, he could see bloody punctures in his friend's shoulder, side, and the back of his head. The long claw marks down both sides of Gordon's back seeped blood as well. Wasting no time, Danny helped Gordon to his feet, and they made their way to the vehicle back at the cabin. Once Danny had Gordon loaded into the vehicle, they sped their way to the Sioux Lookout Hospital, about 40 miles as the crow flies to the south. Once they arrived, Gordon's wounds were cleaned and bandaged. The wounds on Gordon's head were closed with 12 stitches. Gordon was released back to Winnipeg the following Tuesday after his third round of rabies vaccinations. In summary of his condition following the attack, Gordon indicated that he was sore as hell. Following the attack, Gordon dubbed Danny Sure Shot and dubbed himself Bear Bait. He stated that if it weren't for Danny's quick reactions, he wouldn't be alive. Gordon's future outhouse plans no longer include leaving the door open. He says he will close it and put up with the stench to avoid a second bear attack. Gordon commented that the bear appeared to be healthy after he had escaped its jaws and claws. Only 1 month after this attack, Gordon returned to the location to continue doing what he enjoys. After reviewing the facts surrounding Gordon's bear attack, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think the black bear would have killed Gordon if Danny hadn't killed it? What do you think was the bear's motivation in attacking Gordon in the outhouse? Would it have attacked if the door was shut, or did it matter? The next time you use the outhouse, will you make sure to shut and lock the door, just in case a hungry bear wanders by? I think I'm going to bring a gun and bear spray. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to a small city along the long and deep Lake Okanagan in British Columbia, Canada. The depths of the lake go up to 761 feet and supposedly house a giant creature similar to the Loch Ness Monster. This area receives about 12 inches of rainfall each year, with 1/3 of that amount as snow. It is a high-elevation plateau that reaches around 4,500 feet in height. Temperatures here dip well below zero in winter, but summers are hot and drier. To the east of town lies a broad and sloping expanse of forest. Pine, fir, and spruce trees grow in a thick canopy that can hide any animal seeking shelter there. There's plenty of food, with Oregon grapes, wild currants, gooseberries, and elderberries yielding calories in season to denizens of the forest. Common animals here include moose, elk, white-tailed, and mule deer, as well as coyotes, wolves, cougars, and black bears. Residents of Naramata are fairly accustomed to seeing bears in their area. They are frequently seen passing through yards and crossing fields to get to resources. The bears in the woods around town were increasing in population, which pushed females with young closer into town. The big boars were threats to cubs, and people in town accommodated the bears, allowing them to raise their cubs in a less dangerous area, or maybe an area with different dangers than the woods. Around 1:30 a.m. on August 24, 2022, Sam Coventry was checking on the plants growing in his garden. Sam had had a difficult time sleeping on occasion, and tonight was another one of those nights. Whenever he had sleeping problems, he would go out and work in his garden and gaze at the stars to pass the time until he felt he could sleep. Sam had worked hard on getting his farm off the ground and was growing a nice bunch of grapes after taking care of the plant for a few years. The plant had yielded bunches of delicious grapes and had become a point of pride for Sam. He'd seen a few bears on his property over the last few years. He had once watched a sow with 2 cubs climbing his fruit trees and just wandering around the neighborhood. His fruit trees had developed into quite an attraction to many of the bears, and he enjoyed seeing them. They didn't bother him, and tended to avoid being anywhere near him, so they seemed harmless to him. After Sam had worked for a while, he began to feel like he might be able to get to sleep. He made his way through the darkness toward his home. As he glanced up, he could see a dark form moving toward him, lit by the dim moonlight. By the time the shape got to within a few feet of him, Sam recognized it as a black bear. Now, a little background information is needed to understand exactly why this bear had visited Sam's orchard.
Even when located in town, the sugary scent of fruit tree flowers can drift for miles around their location, depending on precipitation and seasonality. In the early weeks of spring, fruit trees release immense amounts of aromatic oils from flower petals that evaporate and travel on the breeze. It is Mother Nature's way of telling bees to visit and pollinate the flowers. Bees smell the aromatic oils, but bears also smell them and are just as interested. An example of how orchards affect bears exists in every backcountry homestead. Here in Idaho, there are a few abandoned orchards that big boars claim in their territory so that they can reap the bounty of fruit when they are ripe. Bear hunters are keen to this tendency and use the abandoned orchards to find bear sign and determine if there are any bears in the area. Sam knew that the bear could kill him if it got to his neck or any other area that had a significant blood flow. He threw his hands up around his neck and turned his right shoulder toward the bear, hoping to protect vulnerable parts of his body. The bear reached up toward Sam's shoulder and raked its claws down the back of his arm, opening up shallow gashes. Now fully alarmed and flushed with adrenaline, Sam twisted back toward the bear and flung his forearm toward the closest part of the bear, which happened to be its neck. Swinging his fist toward the bear, Sam's punch landed with a solid thud on the bear's windpipe. Following Sam's unexpected counterattack, the bear stumbled back a few steps. It was apparently struck with fear. It spun on its heels and dashed back toward the brush near Sam's acreage. Sam stared at the bear as it bounded off and wondered if this was really happening. He quietly chuckled to himself and chalked it up to just another one of the strange things that have happened in his life. Following the brief altercation, Sam went into his home and examined the gashes the bear had left in his arm. He cleaned up the wounds himself and decided to skip the hospital altogether. Following the run-in with the bear, Sam was reluctant and even embarrassed to discuss the matter. He expressed sorrow at having socked the bear in the throat and understood that the bear attacked because they were in a bottleneck and it thought it had no choice. This was the first time Sam had seen this bear on his property and hasn't seen the bear since. Conservation officers indicate that the bear doesn't present an ongoing threat to the public and have not taken any action against it. They maintained observation of the area for further problems with the bear, but noted that none had occurred. Sam's altercation with the bear occurred 8 years after Naramata initiated a Bear Smart community program. Sam's fistfight with the bear was the first and only known attack since the program began. Sam hasn't let the fight keep him from his hobbies. He states he has no anxiety about a repeat attack, and he is now fine and healthy. I'm pretty sure that if Sam takes a careful look at the bushes around his farm, he might see a slightly worried bear face peering back, probably making sure that Sam isn't still guarding those grapes. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think Sam's injuries may have been worse if he'd run into the bear closer to its food source? Did Sam's timely throat punch prevent the bear from injuring him more severely? Do you think the bear that attacked Sam will be raiding any other fruit orchards? The next time you are in your garden, will you glance over your shoulder just to make sure there are no bears sneaking up on you? I'm pretty sure I will be. I'll be glad to read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.